welcome back to Making Food Monday. This week we're going to make a brand new breakfast casserole. This time it's going to be Carne Asada breakfast casserole. For today's recipe, we will need an onion, some bell peppers, mine happen to be frozen, that's okay. You'll need some cooking spray of some kind. I've got olive oil, and that's just to keep it from sticking to your pan. You're gonna need some steak and meat seasoning. It's called Carne Asada and bistec in Spanish. We need some black pepper, some salt. I've got some mushrooms here, that's optional. I've got cheese, you're gonna want some of that. I've got my Carne Asada that's already cut into slices for me, but I am gonna make those a little bit smaller. Of course, you're gonna need eggs because this is breakfast, and that should be all we need for today's recipe, guys. So the first thing we're gonna do today is to prepare our steak, because clearly you could not have Carne Asada breakfast casserole without any Carne Asada. So I've got about 2.5 pounds of meat here. We probably don't need this much, but I like to add as much meat as possible just because we like it that way. But that's gonna depend entirely on how many people you're feeding and how much you like in yours. So I'm gonna leave that up to you, how much meat you need. So I'm just gonna slice this into nice little bite-sized pieces. As you can see, mine's already sliced, so that makes cutting it into these small pieces nice and easy. Now once I get all of my meat sliced, I'm gonna have to add the seasoning to it because this is what changes it from meat to Carne Asada. This is what actually gives it that Carne Asada flavor. And then, of course, it's gonna depend on how much meat you have, but I'm just gonna give mine a good sprinkling and then just kind of massage it in and make sure all of the pieces get equal amounts of flavor on them. This is gonna be all of our seasoning that we need, all of our salt and pepper, all of that is all in this one seasoning. It's really good stuff. And then we're just gonna massage it in, make sure that everything gets lots of flavor on it. Okay, and then we're just gonna set all of this meat aside. Up next, we're gonna slice our onion. Now we're not gonna dice it today because we wanna actually make caramelized onions out of this onion. Now we're gonna get started. First, we're gonna put our onions right in the bottom of the pot. We're gonna drop down here to the sear roast function. We're gonna get that started. So guys, my curiosity is getting to me here. This recipe is actually written for a pot-in-pot method, which means you take your little pot and you put it inside your big pot and you have the water inside the big pot that causes the steam to seal the pot. Okay, so my question is, why does it need to be a pot-in-pot method? I'm thinking with this recipe, I might try putting the whole casserole and actually just kind of cross my fingers and check to see if without using the pot-in-pot method, if a breakfast casserole will work. So of course, I'm running the risk of having it turn out soupy. And nobody wants a soupy breakfast casserole, but I think we've got enough meat and enough extra toppings going in this that it's gonna keep the eggs kind of off the bottom of the pot, and perhaps, just perhaps, this breakfast casserole will turn out without being in the pot-in-pot method. Okay, once my onions are caramelized, I'm gonna go ahead and take them out and place them in a bowl. Now I'm gonna go ahead and stop the sear roast function, and then I'm gonna turn it right back on because we wanna have at least that long to cook our steak. So now I'm gonna start putting my Carne Asada in the pot that's nice and hot for just a few minutes for each piece, trying to get them seared so they have that nice Carne Asada flavor to them, but not necessarily long enough to cook them because that's not what we're after. Now because our steak is cut so thinly, it's not gonna take very long to get some nice color on it. Then we're just gonna flip it over for one more second, let it get cooked on the other side. And remember, these don't have to be cooked fully because we're going to cook them again when we seal the pot. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take the chance on not using the pot-in-pot method just because the curiosity is really getting to me and I need to know why this one needs to be a pot-in-pot recipe. So I'm gonna skip the pot-in-pot and I'm just gonna cook everything directly in my inner pot. So I've cooked all of my Carne Asada. It's all in this bowl. This is my last batch, and I'm going to flip it over now. And then I'm gonna leave this batch of Carne Asada on the bottom of the pot. Now I went ahead and turned off my sear roast function because I don't want that to cook anymore. I want it to stay just like that. I'm using 10 eggs. That 10 eggs is gonna go into 2.5 pounds of Carne Asada, so I think 10 is gonna be the magic number here. And now I'm gonna get all 10 eggs cracked into this bowl. about half a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of salt. And about a quarter teaspoon of pepper. Quarter teaspoon of pepper. I'm gonna whisk those together carefully so we don't spill. Once I get all of my eggs whisked together, that's when the fun starts. Because I'm gonna take my steak that I've got on the bottom of my pot. I'm gonna add most of my steak and all of the juice back to the pot. Just gonna save a little bit. And then I'm gonna spread it around so it covers the entire bottom of my pot. Now, as you can see, there's plenty of moisture down there, so we're not gonna be adding any more water to the pot. That's gonna be what builds our pressure. Then we're gonna take all of our eggs and we're gonna just pour those right over our steak, just like that. And of course, try to even it out here as much as possible. There we go. Now here's where you're gonna add all of the toppings that you wanna add to your particular casserole. Just for the record, I am having a little bit of a panic attack that this isn't gonna work because now I've put 2 pounds of meat and 10 eggs into this pot, and if it doesn't turn out, I don't know what we're gonna eat for dinner. But let's layer it anyways and just pretend like this is gonna work, okay? Up next, I'm gonna put my caramelized onions just over the top. And then I'm just gonna kind of spread them around, make sure they're kind of even. And then I'm gonna add some mushrooms that I had in my freezer. Try to get them as even as possible. And then I'm gonna top it with some frozen bell peppers. And again, we're gonna spread them evenly. Now, obviously, a fresh bell pepper would work just as well. This just happens to be what I have, just for some flavor. And the last thing going into my pot today is going to be my cheese. I'm gonna cover the entire thing with cheese. And I'm gonna start with about a cup of cheese and sort of spread it all over everything here. And the last thing I'm gonna do is kind of try to make it pretty on top by adding a couple of our pieces of steak right back to the top. And right now is when we start crossing our fingers, guys, because it's time to seal up our pot. Now we're gonna go in here to our chicken function because that's my high pressure. We're gonna bring our time cook up to 25 minutes. Now, if everything goes to plan, this should be done in about 25 minutes. But then I'm gonna let the pressure come down naturally so that it has a little bit more time for that egg to set. The 2 things that I'm concerned about right now are, number 1, if there's too much moisture in that pot, we might end up with like Carne Asada egg soup. The other one is that maybe there's not enough liquid in there and that it won't seal at all. So I'm gonna keep a close eye on this pot and make sure that it does what I expect it to do, and hopefully I'll have discovered a new way to make this breakfast casserole, and it's not quite so complicated. So I have good news and bad news. The good news is we know why a pot-in-pot method has to be what we use for this recipe. The bad thing is it has to be a pot-in-pot recipe because the egg will seal around the top and then the steam cannot come through to seal the pot. So it won't seal if it's not in a pot-in-pot. So we're gonna take everything we have in our pot, we're gonna transfer that to the pot-in-pot method, and we're gonna finish this up. So this should be pretty easy to do, although it isn't going to be near as pretty as I had hoped it was going to be. All I'm gonna do is scoop out what's in my pot and put that into my pot-in-pot. Put it into my smaller pot so that we can cook it evenly. Right in there. Some of the recipes call for mixing all of these ingredients, so I'm not really that bothered by having them mixed. I just wanted it to be prettier, but that's okay. It's still gonna taste the same, and it's gonna be delicious. Okay, now that I've got my food out of my pot, I'm going to add a cup of water, and then I'm going to cover both of my casseroles with foil. And then I'm gonna place a foil sling under my smaller pot, like that. And then I'm gonna place my trivet over the top of my smaller pot because that's gonna hold my larger pot, just like that. And then we're gonna place this whole contraption right inside our pot, just like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and reseal that pot. And we're gonna go back into our chicken function. We're gonna take that time cook back up to 25 minutes and start. Okay guys, my time has expired and it's now time to let my pressure out. And there's not much pressure left because I let that pressure come down naturally for about 15 minutes. There we go. And now we're ready to open this up. check out our casseroles. Now here's where the sling is going to come in handy, because we're just going to reach in, grab the whole thing, and pull it out, just like that. Super quick and easy. And now that I've got them out, the last thing I'm going to do is top them with some more cheese, so we have that nice melty layer on top. And there we have it, guys. This is Carne Asada breakfast casserole. I've topped it with some avocado, some guacamole salsa, and some regular salsa. And some sour cream, I think, is under there too. Okay, Jaxie, it's made and I've got it plated. Now all we need are our
guinea pigs.
Do it.
Guinea pigs! Hungry!
I have hungry pigs. Oh, I have trampoline pigs. And a daddy pig.
I'm excited about this.
Okay, who thinks it smells good?
Me.
Who should taste it first? Oh, look at all these sweet faces. Oh. Jordan gives the best eyes.
This looks yummy. It smells yummy. It's hot, but tastes really good.
You like it?
Mm-hmm. It's hard to describe.
Have you ever had anything like it before?
No.
Nice.
So.
How many thumbs do you want to give that? Yeah? Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson's got his tongue sticking out. Daddy's pretty excited to eat. But I think I'm going to go with my Princess Malelope, because she always has to go last.
Pretty good.
You like it?
But this stuff is dry.
He always
The
thinks
steak is dry. Malia's kind of a vegetarian, though, so it's not really surprising to me that she's not a big fan of the meat. But what do you think of the flavor?
It's good.
Yeah, maybe you just need to take smaller bites. Let's see, which one of my boys should I feed next? I think we'll go with the tiny one.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
The other tiny one.
With sour cream, yes, but with no sour cream, no.
Okay, so we'll make sure you got lots of sour cream. How many thumbs are you going to give that? Yeah?
More than 1,000 and more than 100.
Thanks, buddy. Dad.
I'm very excited about this, like I said earlier. Breakfast for dinner is my absolute favorite thing. And that smells amazing. Oh yeah. I mean, you have carne asada, and you get eggs, and you get guacamole, and you get all this deliciousness all together. Wow. I was concerned the scrambled eggs, because scrambled eggs in a pressure cooker, great. The meat, it's not dry, it's very well seasoned. Well, I give this thing for like 200 thumbs. This is really good.
200 thumbs. Thanks, Dad.
No.
Okay, guys, my final thoughts. I think once we took the food out of the pot, put it in those little pots, and then did the pot-in-pot method, everything worked fine. But at least now we know why we have to do it that way. Because before that, I always wondered, why wouldn't it work to just put the food inside there? The other thing is, all three of the kids decided that this recipe was really tasty until they looked further and saw that there was mushrooms and peppers and onions inside, and then they didn't necessarily like it so much. The flavors were really good though, so I think in the future the pot-in-pot method is going to work out really well for us, because I can leave out the onions and the mushrooms and the peppers for the kids, and Daddy and I can still eat what we want to eat. So I think this one was really tasty. It worked out really well. It wasn't hard to put together at all, and it answered some of our questions. So this one definitely gets 2 thumbs up from me. So who thought the carne asada breakfast casserole was super yummy?
Me.
Who would have thought the carne asada casserole was super yummy if it didn't have onions and mushrooms and peppers in it? Okay, so the next time we make this, and we will probably make it again because Daddy and I both thought it was delicious. Next time we make it, I'll make 2 different ones, and I'll make sure and leave all the yucky stuff out of yours and add extra yucky stuff to Daddy's and mine because we loved it. But I think this one was was a very successful recipe. I think it was super yummy. But I think it's time to put my Smarty Pantses to bed. So,
If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Want to make this channel strong? Share it with your friends. And now, good night, YouTube. See you tomorrow. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now.